Damn, son, where'd you find this? A King Majora exclusive. Documentary time. Sup, people, it's King Majora here. Look, I am from the Cave EXE, and anywhere you will find me, typically I've got my bio all set up now. lnk.bio / KXNG MAJORA. Again, lnk.bio / KXNG MAJORA. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to speak about Tartaria because I bring up Tartaria a lot in my mythos and my RNG and everything else because, quite frankly, I believe it. I know that sounds crazy. I've got my own theories. Some are outlandish, some are more sane. But when you really study, like the people who have dedicated their lives to this stuff, right? So there's more to it than meets the eye. And I'm by no means an expert. Excuse me. I'm by no means an expert, so you're just going to have to bear with me and understand that you can go to other resources that are perfect for this. But I'm going to give a rough overview of why I believe you should at least take it more seriously than one might think. So here is some actual credible sources, and then I bring up an author in the end who I just purchased their book, and I'm not going to read it all, but shouts out to them. And they may see this eventually. So I'll read a few excerpts, namely where they show photographic proof. And of course, you need to check this out for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. So, without further ado, look, this is the Library of Congress.gov, right? And this is not the only one. There are so many that you can find. You can find paintings of Tartaria. And this is Grander Tartary. Well, first, let's see what this says. Old maps contain many intriguing place names, strange spellings for recognizable places, rumors of lands which once existed, and mysterious unknowns. One such enigmatic toponym which appeared on European and American maps from the 13th to the 19th century is Tartary. Tartary. No Tartary can be found on a 21st century map. And what's more, the area labeled as Tartary never seemed to be in quite the same place on two different maps. What's the story on this wandering place name? The English term Tartary is a modification of Latin Tartaria, using a typical Latin suffix ia, think Germania or Britannia. Tartaria refers to the land of the Tartars, but who were the Tartars? The term Tartar, usually with only one R, was and is used for a group of, primarily Turkic people living in Eastern Europe and Northern Asia. It may have had its origins, as many of these people groups did, in the Mongol invasion of Russia, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia in the 13th century. Whether the majority of these people referred to themselves as Tartars or their land as Tartaria throughout the several hundred years of this designation appearing on maps is highly doubtful. Today, groups that identify themselves as Tartars live in Russia, Ukraine, and various countries in Central Asia and around the world. The Republic of Tatarstan is a semi-autonomous administrative region of Western Russia, as seen on this 2009 map in purple. Okay, so you see, and I don't want to read all the way into it because I'm going to bring up some valid criticisms of why this isn't just a bunk theory. And it may be that it's a territorial region of maybe several empires. I will credit that. But what is being conveyed is a fucked up history, basically. And we can go into Scalinger, whatever hell it's called, chronology, and Plato and Plotinus, and how basically there's a foundational gap between what is considered the authoritative historical chronology and who is the gatekeepers of that. The questions that people have are actually genuine, and we got to stop with this appeal to authority fallacy. And I mean that for everything, man. I'm going to make that a part of all my new investigations. Quit appealing to authority, rather it be Einstein, fucking Alex Jones, anybody really. But just to go back at this, okay? So the idea of the conspiracy theory is that that there's this lost civilization and it was a lot more advanced because, and the focus is on America, like American Tartary, and there's people who have made so many things about it with books and this and that. But you know, one thing I want to shout out is, okay, now check this out: Alaska to Russia distance miles. The mainland coast of Alaska and Russia are separated by about 55 miles. However, at their closest point, the two countries are only 2.4 miles, ladies and gentlemen. 2.4 miles apart across the Bering Strait. This incredibly short gap separates the Russian island of Big Diomede and the American island of Little Diomede. Okay, so, you know, just consider a different circumstance, or where it would say ice over, like they say, you know. They already admit that the Native Americans, we need to quit calling them that. They're a form of Asian that's separated to the point where they might be the closest thing to them is probably Mongolians. We need to get the dialectic and linguistics out there for the meme war, man. People do not understand that the linguistics and memes matter to the point where it fundamentally shapes what you do in life and thus what is promoted in the media. And we got to get over this fact that they couldn't have come over from the other side. Like, even if Tartaria is fake, like, say it's fake and bunk, we got to get over this fact that, they all came from the other side. It's a lot more realistic to say they came from the other side, with like the Asians did. And it probably was through this Tartary system. Like I said, it don't have to be, I have my own theories of like Albion, Teutonia, Merovingia, Italiana. Like I have my own perspectives and I can go into it all day long on these tangents of Tartary and what I think real life was. I do believe that it has to do with cloning and non-human intelligence, but I can get into that a separate time. I just want to show the grand view of this Tartary thing. And I want that to be the most number one thing you take from this. This, you could, and if you're from the United States, get on the highway, interstate, and go 60 miles, or the speed limit 70 where I'm at, so in Ohio, so 70 miles an hour, right? In less than an hour, you've made it to Russia from Alaska. Now, I know there's currents, okay? I know about ocean. I'm not an expert, but I get it. Okay, I'm not saying that that's, but this appeal to authority fallacy where we have to just accept that, the gatekeepers of academia are somehow squeaky clean and political theory is 100% accidental theory. It lacks common sense, and people at this point should really question everything. If you're not questioning with all the, all the whistleblowers of not just non-human intelligence, the MK Ultra, CIA, all the congressional hearings, if you're not taking it seriously yet, you're retarded. And don't just blame it all on Epstein files. That's so annoying with this toxic conspiracy fandom. Everything's about the Epstein files, and I hate to go on a tangent, but did you really consider not just the sex traffic, but the medical atrocities that man was committing? The technological advances that man scientists were a part of? No, because you focus on the sex, which is bad, but you don't even pay attention to the medical atrocities and the fucking mad science he was doing. I am tangenting and I apologize. It's all in the exercise of trying to get you to really think, if you're new to this or if you're not sure. Because if you really think this isn't possible to traverse from the other side, excuse me, if you really don't think so, I don't know what to tell you. You're a yuppie for anything. They already say that the Asians came over and they're the Native Americans. You don't think that this is possible to traverse somehow, some way? The ingenuity of Rome and its vast times of ingenuity could not figure its way out to the New World. You know, they say the Vikings and Rome was here. I mean, they claim that's revisionist, but I think in time, you know, history will smile upon me and others. But come the fuck on. Excuse me. Come the fuck on. Ain't no way. When it's that close, less than an hour drive on the highway, are you kidding me? You don't think nothing can get through on another conventional means? Now I get it, not as fast and technologically advanced, even if you know, don't accept tartar, but this doesn't tell you anything. I don't know what to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, because that should immediately say, you know what? I think ingenuity would do that, because they didn't have cell phones, TV, you know, video games. They had it to ingenuity and explore with their minds and get high and drunk and pirate. They would have found a way. So I know that was a long tangent, but I needed to stress just how very, very likely it was that, in fact, most of them probably came from this direction. Even if it's still, you know, like Albion or Europe or England, it changes nothing. I swear that that's the most. History will frown upon this academic concept of they only came from the other side, from like England and Spain, from that direction, and they couldn't have fathomed coming from the other way with Asians and Tartar and Russians and shit like that. Like the Japanese. I mean, you publicly have admitted this, but this is the cognitive dissonance. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. So this is the National Library of Scotland, and now I'm bringing this up for a reason. This is the 1771 Encyclopedia Britannica, the first edition of 1771. Now, look, this is a real document, you know, Britannica, so you take the credibility of that. So I just want to establish that before we go into some more credible evidence. Okay, I got to confirm I'm human. I'll mumble for a bit. You know, I want to establish that this was a well-known phenomena. I mean, look at this. I type in tartar. What did I type in? I'm sorry. I need to look. I'm so stupid. I want to make sure I Tartari. Well, I don't think Tartaria in particular shows up, but it might. Nah, it doesn't. So Tartary. I'm looking like a dumbass. Excuse me. So there, I want you just, and I'm gonna, you can read these in your own time, because they're not necessarily non-mundane, but it's to build the context that, you know, this was 1771 Britannica, and you've got all of these pages. You know, look what it says. You know, 64. So you've got all of these pages and pages of Tartary to establish that it's such a thing. And it's like, well, they're not saying that the concept doesn't exist, but just trust me on this. I need you to see it the way it is. So there's 4 pages of that. Of course, I will show you in a, this is the archive.org, and if you ever have money to donate and you don't want to donate to me or anything else, donate to archive.org. They need that. It's such a vital tool. So, Greater Tartary. Okay, it's not in this one. Oh, shit. Maybe I'll just show. Okay. Oh, man, everything got a fuck up in here, don't it? It's an error in it, but it's like, so I want to bring your attention, now that I've established that there's history of it. So you've got the Library of Congress having a, you know, a deep history of the Tartaria, and it gives its own spiel. You can look at that another time. So you've got the maps that are available. It gives you the fact that it was like a colloquialism or whatever the hell it is, an adage of a region of types and ethos of peoples. You know, that's what the common trope is, after all. So, but like I've said before, like, the odds are stacked against you if you really think about it with logic. I mean, this isn't that far away. So, you know, this is a .gov. You see, CIA.gov document national cultural development under communism, and you can look this up yourself. This is the actual .gov reading room PDF, and I gotta find it because it's in here somewhere. It's towards the end, and it mentions repressing right here. I think it's right here. Somewhere in here, it talks about repressing the refabricating history and destroying Tartarian evidence. Um, I hate to filibuster, but I'm trying to find where they talk about it, because it's towards the end here, and they talk about totally destroying, uh, fuck, the history of right here, right here. So, excuse me. Perhaps the best example of the communist contempt for the rights of the minority peoples of the Soviet Union and of the emptiness of their boast of free cultural development is the Tartars. So there we have it, the Tatars, Chechen, English, Balkars, Karachai, as well as the Buddhist Kalmyk people. It is hard to conceive of a clearer violation of the promise to permit free. So cultural development how can there be a culture or cultural development if a people is liquidated or dispersed in a small units amidst other peoples? How can this be reconciled with the communist pledge as contained in the 1917 proclamation to respect Muslim beliefs and customs, Muslims' national and cultural institutions? I'm sorry, I should have prepared this part, but I wanted the front page on there. Uh, Within this, it talks about basically you can read this for yourself. I hate that I'm doing that, but there's this systematic effort basically within these documents that reveal that oh, here we go. Oh wow, here we go. So I got saved. Or let us take the matter of history, which, along with religion, language, and literature, constitutes the core of a people's cultural heritage. Here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. For example, on 9 August 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, sitting in Moscow, issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria. So there we have it, to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of a nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with Tartar history. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank, was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to great Russian aggressions and to hide the fact of the real course of Tartar-Russian relations. And this was no isolated case. In every Muslim area within the USSR, historians on orders of the Communist Party have rewritten history to distort the facts so that the Russians appear always in a good light. Needless to say, histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed so that the present and future generations of Muslims are forever denied the chance of learning the true facts of their nation's past. So, I almost quit on it because I was like, fuck, did I look stupid on here? But it's like, no, listen, there you have CIA investigations through espionage into the Soviet Union. The fact that they uncovered a plot by the Soviet Union to eliminate history and replace history of several places, not just the infamous Tartar. So the question you should have you ever actually went on Wikipedia and typed in any random nation from the medieval era? You'll be blown away. You've never heard about it. I used to do it as a kid growing up. So medieval, I fucked that up. Medieval nations wiki. There's probably a wiki. Shit. I mean, just to show you how little people pay attention to what's actually there. But then you got to pay attention to how history is gathered. And I know this is Wikipedia, and I know some people don't mind that it's Wikipedia, and some people really do. I try to stick away from Wikipedia, not to say that it's wrong. It can be changed, and Mossad has actively said that they change it. Excuse me. Jewish institutions, I get into nuance. It's not all Jews. I practice my own form of Tanakh based without any sort of deity. You can look into my, you know, link.bio, lnk.bio/ / KXNGMAJORA. You could definitely check out that. So it's like, but that's not my point. The fact is, we've got so much unearthed history, and if you consider just remotely that they're bringing back Aether, and another terminology, the science academia of breakthrough science is slowly bringing back the concept of Aether because it's turning out to be correct. And like Einstein basically plagiarized everything he talked about. Shouts out, Christopher John Bjerknes. But it basically, the plasma movement and the ether movement was hijacked by this whole agenda. And basically, you were 101 scientists against Einstein, and this is relevant. 101 scientists against Einstein, and scientists from America who wanted to debate Einstein, and they basically said, "Fuck off! I'm here to spread Zionism." And they got labeled anti-Semite. It's that classic age-old thing. Well, now it's the modern day, and nobody takes that seriously anymore. But look at all of these. Like, you see the main ones, right? And then it's like, but then it gets into, you see the main ones they show, and you see the ones you typically hear about. But then if you start going into royal families, do you really know about any of these? Look at all the family crest. Like, I always put my family crest on shit now to prove that this shit matters. You should be paying attention to your own coat of arms. Your surname type in Google your surname coat of arms. Mine's Skelton. So I intentionally bring that out there. You should be paying attention. But just to show you the power dynamic is revealed through colors. You can see over the years where power dynamics have come and gone. But this is just establishing. Look, Principality of Queen. Galatia. We've got these. You don't even know what's really hidden beneath everything. So, but you also got to consider the chronology is all solely dependent upon realistically less than 20 men. I know that sounds crazy if you're not learned into this whole alternative history and debating chronology. You're not a conspiracy theorist if you merely debate the authority opinion. Skeptics are paid to lie to you and tell you this and that, or they're just basically there to be a skeptic, and they appeal to authority. That's their kryptonite. They appeal to authority. Everything's an authority to appeal to, and it's like the Wright brothers flew when they said it heavier than air flight was impossible, academia and military. So don't tell me any of this is impossible. Don't tell me this is impossible because a skeptic told me no. Are you Rockefeller? Excuse me? You you must need to wipe your fucking mouth. You farted out bullshit. Excuse me? You believe whatever Rockefeller told you to think in this, the mental cleanliness movement of the proto-Nazi era of Teutonia and Deutschland. And I hate to tangent, but it's like People will hush hush this theory simply because it's not what appeal to authority fallacy told me. And it's always the outsider that brings about real change. So we're bringing it to this part of the story, and I'm not going to try to, butcher this guy's work. I just happened to buy this not too long ago. Tartaria Lives by Travis Bosdale. And I saw some beautiful pictures, so I wanted to look at some of them. So see, look, he's got pictures of, Tartaria everywhere, and I just wanted to look at some of the art. Um, how do you, oh shit, I wanted the magnifying glass this shit. Well, anyway, look, so you got all these pictures of just random, Tartaria, and you can read this book at any time. So it's talking about, civilized races. Okay, this goes into some deep lore. It gets into the Anunnaki like me. So, because all of these, all of these tie together, you know. So, and this goes into my greater point of, you know, history isn't just what appeal to authority fallacy says, ladies and gentlemen, and that's somebody's work. I don't really want to, I was going to, but then I realized that somebody's copyrighted material. So, basically check that out. So I hope I provided at least something to get your mind going, and just be thinking about that. So that's about all, ladies and gentlemen. I'm King Majora, KXNGMAJORA at the KVXE. All of my shit. So LNK. Yep, that's right. LNK.bio/KXNGMAJORA. You can hit me up on Twitter, King Majora X Real. At least right now it is. It always changes. All that fun jazz, King Majora. And it's quite funny, actually. That's about all. Peace out.